Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 2 of the Marvel series Loki on Disney Plus, entitled The Variant. I'm gonna stop calling it season 1, episode 2, or season 1, blah 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 blah. The more I watch these shows, the more I think that they're more meant to be limited series that kind of like serve a purpose of tying in something new and integrating it into the cinematic universe. So I feel like none of these shows are meant to have multiple seasons. If I end up being wrong, hey, whatever. But yeah, I'm not gonna go season 1, episode 2, because I don't think there's gonna be multiple seasons of this, as much as I would like that. So just gonna call it season 2. Episode 2. The title, The Variant, pretty obvious. Not so worthy of discussion as the Glorious Purpose title from last week, but we do get the reveal of not who the variant is, but I guess more so the appearance of the variant. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to talk about some of the things I liked about this episode first, which, again, just like last week, this episode right up my alley. I'm loving all of this. I think it's real fun. I love the snappy dialogue, the back and forth between Loki and Mobius. I keep wanting to call him Morbius. Mobius. I love the look of the show, like I talked about last week. If you watched the deep dive episode that I did, you found out that Axel had knows the term for it. I think he called it retrofuturism. Super interesting. I love the look of it still. I love the timey-wimey time travel stuff. That's all my jam. I love that kind of stuff. So all that same stuff is here. No real issues with this episode. Well, I kind of had a small one, but I'll get to that in a moment. I liked a lot of what I saw again this week. Very similar to last week. This week had a couple of other things that I liked, though, that I found to be pretty interesting. So starting off, I really liked the opening sequence. Opening sequences takes place in it was like a Renaissance fair in I think it was 1985 in Wisconsin, and we see the variant come. He takes over. They take over the body of one of the commanders of the Minutemen that arrived there to investigate and take out the rest of the team, and then leave stealing one of the reset charges. And all of this is done over to the tune of Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler, which is, I don't know, seen some resurgence as of late, because the Masters of the Universe trailer that Kevin Smith put out for his new animated Netflix show, was to the same tune. So kind of cool seeing that song kind of popping up a little bit more lately. But yeah, so I thought that scene was really cool. I really liked having that to that song. It was kind of fun. So that was good. One of the other things that I really liked is how they pointed out that there are multiple Loki variants, and I like that because if you listen to the deep dive, we talked about the concept of whether or not this hooded figure was actually Loki or if it was somebody else. So when they started talking about, oh, we've caught a whole bunch of different Loki variants, and they're like showing these pictures, and it's all these different kinds of Lokis, I'm like, okay, so now it makes a little bit more sense that this variant isn't necessarily going to be the Loki in appearance that we are familiar with. It could be any type of person who is Loki, but they could look different, have a different gender, have a different build, anything, right? So I like that, and I kind of felt like that foreshadowed. To me, obviously, because like I pointed out in the deep dive episode, why shroud this character if it's just Loki? Like, there has to be some sort of twist to it. So when they started cycling through these different versions of Loki, I was like, okay, well, this person is probably still going to be Loki, because they even mentioned, I think that when they capture all these variants, there's some sort of tag on them or something of some sort, like the aura of them that lets them know that it's still Loki, and that let me know that this person is going to be different in appearance than Tom Hiddleston, but still Loki. So I thought that was pretty cool that they slid that in a little bit early. I really enjoyed also, like I mentioned at the top of the video, that I like the back and forth banter between Mobius and Loki. But in this episode in particular, I really liked they had a brief little discussion. It was kind of like a theological discussion, actually, where Loki kind of pointed out how ridiculous all of Mobius' beliefs are regarding the timekeepers and the TVA and purpose. And then Mobius kind of flips it back on him, like, look at your story. Is it any less goofy than what I believe in? And I liked that theological discussion that they had. I liked his little jet ski story about wanting to ride jet skis. I feel like there's no way that he doesn't end up on a jet ski before the end of the before the end of this series, but we'll see. And there's more I want to mention about that as well a little bit later. Um, I like the fact that Loki discovered the whole, I guess you would call it kind of a loophole, which is a interesting term to use when we're talking about time travel and whatnot. But that the variant is hiding behind apocalyptic events, and I like the fact that he discovered that while again learning some more devastating news about the destruction of Asgard, which we saw in Thor Ragnarok. So another great scene, another good opportunity for Tom Hiddleston to have a reality hit him pretty hard, but then able to use that for, I guess, the purposes of good. So really good stuff there. I enjoyed anything with the Minutemen going into the various points of the time stream and trying to figure things out. I liked his little back and forth with Miss Minutes, trying to hit her and stuff like that. That was cute, I guess. So lots of good moments there. I liked going to Pompeii and doing all of whatever that was that Loki was doing to kind of prove his theory that whatever he does prior to an apocalyptic event doesn't affect the timeline. And like he said, like I like how Mobius wanted to start small. Like, can you make like a bird sound or something? And then he like goes out and like starts riling up goats and screaming in Latin and all kinds of stuff, going crazy. I thought that was pretty cool. One of the things that I didn't like, and I don't necessarily think this is a flaw per se. It could have just been something that maybe I'm just not quite wrapping my head around it. But after Loki proved that the variant was hiding behind apocalyptic events, they narrow down. Well, they don't narrow down first, but Mobius discovers, he thinks of the gum, which I brought up last week. I'm like, what's up with this gum? He mentions that the gum, that he got in the whatever that church was sold between 2047 and 2051, and they're going to cross-reference apocalyptic events with that time period to discover where the variant is hiding. And my only problem with that is, how do you know which apocalyptic event in that time frame is the one that he's hiding in? Because if the gum was sold during that time period, it could have been sold anywhere. It could have been sold at a liquor store. It could have been sold at a gas station. It could have been sold at a Walmart. Like, it could have been sold anywhere. And he's like ruling out these locations like, oh, well, it's this thing. Well, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. And I don't know what in his file let him know, excuse me, that the other events were not the one that he was hiding in. And presumably he was at a supermarket, so you could say, this event that happens at this supermarket must be it, because presumably this supermarket sells this gum. But there's way too much presuming that you have to do there to figure out how they landed on this specific event in Alabama, because the other 3 or 4 that he mentioned, I don't know how he ruled them out. And because, like I said, the gum could have been sold anywhere during that time. And then they hone in on this one in Alabama, and they go there, and the gum doesn't make an appearance. But again, we can assume that place sells the gum. But I don't know. I just felt like that was a little bit too murky and a little bit too unclear, because I paused it to look at the file that he opened for that event in Alabama, and I didn't see anything on there that distinguished that event from the others that he named before that will make him so sure that that's the correct one. I don't know how he figured that out, and I don't like to presume things like that. I'd like for him to maybe throw in a line that says, oh, this event happened at what's it called, Rocksmart, which presumably is owned by Roxxon, which again another tie-in with the other Marvel properties. But maybe if he said something like, oh, this one happens at a supermarket, presumably they would sell gum, let's go check it out, as opposed to, I found it, he's here. How? Like, how do you know that? Like, why wasn't it the other 3 or 4 that you read? So that was a little thing that was a little murky for me. But again, that could have been just something I missed, and not a flaw of the show. So there's a couple thoughts that I had as well. And these are kind of like theories, I guess, but there are things that came up in the episode that I had questions about, and not questions about due to a lack of clarity on the show, but just questions on things that I found interesting. So the first one, and I think the main one, is there's a moment when Mobius is talking with, I think he said her name is Ravonna. It's the judge that was overseeing Loki's hearing in the first episode. And he's talking with her, and he goes to set down his cup his glass of whatever they were drinking on the table, and she stops him, and he grabs a coaster and he puts it under there, and there's multiple rings on the table, and he says something like I can't remember what he says, but she says something to the effect of like that's always you, like you keep doing that or something like that. And it made me wonder, because there were other instances where Ravana mentioned that the timekeepers are watching everything. This is the most they've ever watched anything. Mobius admits that he's never actually had any interaction with them. And obviously it appears that the variant is out to get the TVA. Because she said she's not interested in taking over the TVA, which to me reads like I'm not interested in taking it over. I'm interested in taking it down. And, at the end of the episode, she sets off all these charges that create multiple branches in the timeline. I'm going to read some of those in a minute, by the way, because I paused it there too, just to see if there was anything interesting. But it made me wonder what if there are no timekeepers? What if this is just Ravana, whatever her name is? What if this is just her and there are no timekeepers and she's controlling time on some sort of loop? As in, like, when I said that there was multiple rings on that table, condensation, rings. What if those are all because this moment keeps replaying over and over? Like they've had this conversation over and over. And either Ravonna is in charge of this and there are no timekeepers, or the timekeepers are looping this over and over again, just like, or maybe not even them, maybe anybody that has one of those little clickers that kind of like rewinds people. What if this is being played over and over and over again? But the difference is, I feel like if it was getting rewound and then coming back, you'd only have one ring. So that makes me think that this scene plays out over and over and over in hopes of a different outcome. So that presumably the outcome that has been happening is not the ideal one for whoever is making this happen again. And they're trying to arrive at the correct outcome. So I feel like there's some sort of manipulation going on here by either Ravonna or probably not the TVA as a whole, either her or the timekeepers, or maybe the timekeepers don't even exist at all and it's just her. Because that really stuck out to me. I'm like, why did they show those multiple rings? And then when she said it's always him, it just made me think like we're supposed to interpret that as every time he comes in there and they have a drink, she leaves a stain on her table. Whereas I was like, wait a minute, no, maybe that means that he is literally this keeps happening. This situation keeps happening over and over and over. So if the TVA is being manipulated in a timey-wimey sort of way, that to me only means that the TVA is either someone is messing with the TVA and trying to take them down and is manipulating this situation, or they're doing it themselves. Either way, I feel like somehow the TVA has been either infiltrated or they are the bad guy, which I think landing on the TVA being painted as the bad guy is probably the direction that we're going. I'm seeing a whole lot of, people raising questions on whether what they do is right, whether or not it's okay for them to manipulate the timeline or be in charge of it, whatever. It feels very, playing God-like. And like I said, Loki is not interested, Lady Loki is not interested in joining the TVA. It seems like she's interested in taking it down and creating chaos and creating multiple timelines. And it seems like this person is out to get the TVA. And I don't think it's going to be your traditional, the villain is out to do something to the good guys. I feel like it's going to flip that, and Loki and Lady Loki are going to be painted as kind of like the good guys eventually, who are taking down the TVA, who is up to something corrupt. That's kind of where I think we're going with this. But that's my tinfoil hat theory on what's going on. So far, I have very little to base it on, but my main thing that I honed in on was the multiple rings on the table. So look at me reaching for whatever I can find. So let's see. And I also wondered too, like again with Ravonna, if she is involved in this, if it's like kind of like a Wizard of Oz almost, like pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Like if she's the person behind the curtain, like I could see her being the bad guy somehow, and that's what kind of led me down the path of maybe there are no timekeepers. And it's just her, since no one else apparently has had any interaction with them but her. Who's to say that they're even real if only one person can confirm their identity, or their existence, I should say. So interesting stuff to think about right there. So what I want to wrap up with is I want to read some of these different variants that were created. I mean, these branches that were created when Lady Loki set off these reset charges. And by the way, Lady Loki, again, comic canon, essentially the same as Loki, but gender fluid, pansexual. There's no kind of like identity there. Just a kind of like, I guess, an interesting nod to the comic book heads. But like I said, I think they're going to kind of work toward a path of her being something of a good guy. So I'm going to read a couple of these and just for shits and giggles, because I don't really feel like these are going to be places that we're going to visit throughout the course of the show or anything like that. But, and if I pause something and I see something interesting, I'm going to want to talk about it with you guys. So one is the year 51 in Hala, which is the Kree homeworld. Another is in 1001 Xander, which is the where the Nova Corps is located. One is 1382 Ego, which is obviously Star-Lord's father. The planet Ego, which we saw in the Guardian sequel. One is 1982 Titan, Thanos' home. One is 1984 Sakaar from Thor Ragnarok. One is 2004 Asgard. You guys know what Asgard is. And another was 2301 Vormir, which is where the Soul Stone was at when the Avengers got it in Infinity War. So a couple of little cool places of relevance that Lady Loki created branches from the time stream at. So real cool. Like we talked about on the deep dive, I do feel like, and Delvin felt like, and Axel felt like, that this is setting up timelines in the Doctor Strange sequel, as well as the Spider-Man sequel, Spider-Man 3, I should say, No Way Home. So lots of cool stuff. That's why I kind of feel like these shows are setting up movie stuff, really, but and at the same time giving us a little bit more time with characters that we like. So really fun episode. I am absolutely loving this show. I feel like they've gone really far into what I perceive to be the storyline here, with still 4 more episodes left. So I'm very curious to where this is going. I didn't think they would reveal the variant this early. I didn't think that there would be so much, I guess, to learn about the variant's purposes. I think Loki, what are Loki's motivations here? When Loki left with Lady Loki at the end, is he stabbing Mobius in the back, or is he going along to try to figure out more of what's going on? Is he actually trying to take over the TVA and the Timekeepers, and he wants Lady Loki as a lieutenant, as he said, or is that all just him being 10 steps ahead and trying to play the game? And I think ultimately it's going to give you that kind of like Catch Me If You Can feel, where it's like you're going to feel like you're going to watch things play out, and then once it meets its resolution, you're going to see that Loki had that resolution planned from like right now. So should be real fun. I'll be back with a deep dive on Monday with Delvin and Axel, and then I will see you guys then. Peace.